Hello everybody, it's the Historical Gamer once again, and today we're returning to Strategic Command World War I, my Let's Play series playing against Alex Berry as we get toward the end of this series. The war has been going very well for us. We're playing as the Entente, and the war has been going very poorly for the Central Powers. The Austrians are probably on the verge of collapse. The Germans are not far behind. The Ottomans are doing shockingly well. And that's where we find ourselves as we pick this series up, 15 episodes in. So we're going to jump right back into this thing and see how this episode goes and see what to do next if this ends up being the last one, or, maybe we got a couple more. By the way, I do want to apologize if there's any echo in the background here. I made some changes to my office for an interview that I had the other day, and apparently by cleaning things up, I actually created more of an echo than existed in here. I haven't totally isolated the issue yet, and so just something to be aware of. I will work on improving the audio quality going forward, but at least right now in today's episode, there may be a little bit of an echo. But that's enough of me rambling. Let's go ahead and jump in here. So, well underway with this turn. They nearly just sank a British battlecruiser, the Goeben, or Osman, I forget the name of it, but the German battlecruiser, which had been the Goeben at the start of the war and given to the Ottomans, came out from port. It had been sitting near Gallipoli pretty much the whole war. Just came out and attacked a battlecruiser of ours, nearly destroyed it. Ottoman cruiser attacked it again and drove it away. Meanwhile, we did lose 2 Italian corps in the east of the south of Germany, which had been coming in behind the German line in Alsace-Lorraine, and the Austrians surrendered. So we've got a couple of rump states here. Czechoslovakia, Poland have these 2 very tiny states, and then you've also got Austria-Hungary, which for some reason, I do not understand. Like, I know if you get to the point where the major powers are surrendering, it's kind of game over already. But the idea of Serbia not getting big chunks of what modern Yugoslavia is, like, Serbia didn't gain any territory from Austria-Hungary. That feels absurd. That would never happen in a peace treaty where the Austrian government completely collapses. Likewise, our forces, which had been advancing from Italy into southern Germany, are now all cut off. I mean, they still have Munich, so they still have some sources of supply, but they're cut off through the mountains from the Italians because, for some reason, Austria-Hungary is just going to take that territory back, and the Allies are going to accept it. And then, like, Russia, no way in hell is Russia signing up for an independent Poland. I suppose maybe they just formed in the wake of the collapse of the Austrians, but flip side of that is that territory was all occupied by the Russians, so they wouldn't just turn over and be like, sure, you can have your own country. Meanwhile, we occupy, most of historical Poland. Just a very weird situation here with Austria, what they get, Germany, the whole thing is weird. Again, it's a minor quibble with this game because this is not really a geopolitical game, and by the time Austria is surrendering, the war is probably pretty much over, and it pretty much is, assuming the Ottomans don't keep fighting after the Germans surrender, which I don't know that that's a given, but we'll see. We're going to try and destroy this German corps here on the Oder River to see if we can, destroy another German corps, I guess. And let's see, let's move these guys around here. We can go ahead and shatter that reserve corps here. Gives us a national morale bonus. Removes 1 unit sort of from the rear of our lines. The French nearly had a corps destroyed near Dresden, but the Germans didn't quite get it, so we should be able to pull that back and survive. The Russian cavalry here is going to move to Kiel and finish off that submarine, which was in port, which I guess he's just stopped repairing his ships, presumably because he can't afford to keep his army in line. Like, what value does the Navy pose? Meanwhile, nearly destroyed a pre-dreadnought battleship here in port near Stralsund. Maybe we'll be able to finish that off next turn. That would be a huge national morale benefit for us. Remember, capital ships are worth, like, the equivalent of 3 corps worth of national morale. Wilhelmshaven still is ours. They tried to attack it with a detachment. Did a little bit of damage, but we'll reinforce there. And then the Italians still have 2 corps based out of Stuttgart here behind the German lines. Germans have pulled out of most of Alsace-Lorraine. Mulhausen is a national morale objective which is uncovered, unguarded.
And I think they're trying to get out of this encirclement here, maybe falling back toward Frankfurt, which is another national morale objective, because the cream of what's left of their army here is in Alsace-Lorraine. They got like 6 or so corps there. They got a couple of corps at Dresden, which I'm assuming all came from the Austrian front, like when Austria-Hungary surrendered. I assume those troops all got kicked out and moved, because you can see the Russians, like we've got troops helter-skelter all over here in like Poland area, and that's because when the Austrians surrendered, they kicked all of our troops out of their territory, and it just kind of got moved to the border there, so that's why those troops are there. Meanwhile, we overran the German troops at Thorn, so that's another national morale objective for us from the Germans. So Thorn, 1 national morale objective, 2nd German Corps destroyed this turn, and then we should get another national morale objective at Mulhausen, and we'll see if we can get anything else this turn as well. Meanwhile, with all of these troops here in the south of Warsaw that all just kind of got freshly kicked out of Austria and to the nearest border town, maybe we can move some of those toward Berlin and make a play for Berlin, if the Germans even survive. I am taking a lot of casualties here attacking at Bromberg. The thought or hope was that by some of these initial attacks with the weaker units, we would reduce the enemy entrenchments here enough so that we could then attack with a favorable chance of success. We are doing some damage to these guys, but, you know, the casualties are pretty disproportionate. We are taking much more than we are inflicting against them. So it doesn't look like we'll be able to overrun them here at Bromberg, but we've at least damaged them heavily enough so that when they reinforce, they'll lose a lot of their experience. We can bring a bunch more troops in. They are a level 1 infantry unit, so it's one of the few units of his which he was able to upgrade to the next infantry tech. You can see it's got a 1 next to it, and they're wearing different color uniforms. None of our troops currently have that. The French do have the tech. I can't remember if the Russians have the tech or not. But you can't upgrade units and move them the same turn. You also can't be adjacent to an enemy that turn and upgrade. And so in my haste to keep pushing on the Germans, I have really not allowed myself to upgrade most of my units. But you can see here we're threatening Danzig also, which is down to 4 hit points. I'm mostly focusing on the HQ Corps to the west, because 1, that helps provide more efficient supplies for the Germans there, but 2, I don't have enough troops here to just take heavy casualties, hoping that we reduce the fortifications there. I have more troops in the south near Bromberg. Once Bromberg falls, then I can move some of these troops north to finish off Danzig and dam the casualties full speed ahead. I don't really care about casualties right now, guys. Our national morale is high enough in all of these countries that casualties in the short term don't matter, and the benefits that we will get by destroying an enemy unit, even if it means 5-1 losses on our end, it's worth it if we can take another national morale objective. Now you can see all the rump states here on the diplomacy screen, Czechoslovakia, Poland. It looks like those countries will join the Russians eventually. But again, silly geographical situation here. I'm reinforcing all these troops in Serbia because all the troops that had been in what is now part of Austria-Hungary got kicked out. So trying to reinforce some of these guys, get them maybe to the Bulgarian border. It would be nice to be able to hurt the Ottomans. The Ottomans so far have largely been immune from consequences or casualties. We haven't been able to push through the Sinai, and so as a result, you know, that's the only place we share a border with them. So I think what would make sense, even though the Bulgarians have stopped shifting toward the Central Powers, is bring all these troops which had been fighting in Serbia to the Bulgarian-Serbian border and then overrun Bulgaria with them. We've got a lot of experienced troops, a decent number of corps, a lot of detachments. We can attack from multiple directions. We could hopefully attack quickly and overrun them before they can fully mobilize. And then, once we do that, then we could also move on the Ottomans because Bulgaria shares a border with the Ottomans. Our troops here do not have a border with the Ottomans. They can't get to the Ottoman Empire until we are able to bring more of these troops through Bulgaria and overrun the enemy. Might also give Alex something to do something to do where it feels like, hey, I can maybe accomplish something because everywhere else I'm being overrun. The front, at least in the Anatolia, in the Ottoman Europe section, would be pretty narrow. I'm assuming he's got 3 or 4 corps there. I don't think he can. Well, I don't know, because we don't have that many troops in Serbia right now. They're decent troops, but we don't have many of them because most of our troops are elsewhere. We don't share land border anymore either. We can't just, like, rail them across because all the territory we had taken over was lost. If Romania keeps moving toward us, then perhaps it won't matter. If Romania joins the war, then we'll have a direct line between Russia and Bulgaria, and that'll speed things along, I think. But yeah, I don't really have much to do in the Sinai. I've got to reinforce some of these units. We've taken some pretty heavy casualties with the British troops here. We're in a bit of a bottleneck. I can't really advance, so we'll have to see what we can do here maybe next turn. But the Ottomans seem to be in the best position of any of the Central Powers to survive for a little while longer. I don't know if the game keeps playing if the Germans surrender, so it may just say, hey, this is too big of a hole for the Germans to come back from, the game is over, or it may not, I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll see. That being said, you know, it does feel like we're getting close to the end, so what I also will say is that I'm going to do another series with Alex. We're not going to play a World War I scenario. There is a DLC, Empires in Turmoil, I think it is. There's a DLC for this game, which includes, like, I'd say the tentpole piece of this is it's about the Russian Revolution and allows you to play through the Russian Civil War. But it is also includes the Balkan Wars, which I've always been fascinated by the Balkan Wars. I actually have a memoir, I think from someone who was with the Red Cross in the Balkan Wars, which is on my bookshelf. I will probably read that. But I'm thinking we'll do the Balkan Wars scenario in that DLC that includes the Russian Revolution and the Balkan Wars. And I think we'll do another one of those when this one wraps up. I know Alex wants to play again, so might still be a week or two before that starts. But that is sort of next steps on this general series. We'll start a new one. And I think we've both learned a lot. And I like to brute force things, as you guys have commented. But I think Alex has learned a lot too. And I'm assuming the game is pretty similar, although maybe less benefit to entrenchment and more mobility in that one, because it is a few years earlier, and, you know, trenches were a thing, but it was a pretty rapid back and forth campaign. The Balkan Wars had a lot of territory and units change hands. I will probably play as the Ottomans, which will probably put me in line for a lot of pain, but we'll see. Meanwhile, in this game, I'm trying to build up a force for the attack on Berlin. All of these troops which had been forced out of Austria-Hungary, I'm shifting them around and bringing an overwhelming force to Bromberg so we can reduce what's left of that German corps there. I'm also bringing troops west to support the drive on Berlin, and the troops at Bromberg will either shift west to support the drive on Berlin, or they will shift north to assist in the taking of Danzig. Königsberg is surprisingly well defended. I don't think the game will last long enough for us to take that from the Germans, but if we take Danzig and we sort of get to Stettin and we've got kind of a solid front with the water, then what I would do is I would shift the troops, the extra troops, from Danzig to go after Königsberg. We would lose horrific casualties to do that, but, you know, it'd be worth it. I would take 20 casualties to take one unit out, or maybe more, if it means taking a national morale objective, because those are important. Meanwhile, we are also railing our headquarters forward. Too many of our headquarters were too far in the rear for that campaign against Austria. We need to get more headquarters forward so that we can support the battles near Danzig, support the battles near Königsberg, Stettin, and Berlin. So we are doing that. We're reinforcing units we can reinforce. We got plenty of money right now as the Entente, although I've just spent most of my Russian money through operating units forward and things like that. But yeah, we're basically setting up for the final drive on Berlin, which either will happen or the Germans will collapse. Germany's national morale is pretty low, so fair chance that we move all these units and they just give up anyway. But we'll see. We'll see. The only thing I guess I should maybe be doing, and I haven't been doing, but is railing some of these troops to the Caucasus to try and turn the tide on the Ottomans. That's the one place we've got a real front with them that we could pursue and drive through. But those are all mountains. I'd rather take the European bridge, sort of, I think. Meanwhile, moving to the Western Front, see if we can go ahead and take Mulhouse. It'd be great to be able to take Strasbourg. It is an entrenched city, so Attacking it from the rear, the Italians lose 4 casualties and inflict none. They attack again and lose 2 and inflict none. But again, the key there is for me to reduce the fortifications. I should have done that recon beforehand. But the key here is to reduce the fortifications so that we can attack in subsequent attacks more efficiently. So you can see there 4 attacks now, I think that was, and only 2 casualties inflicted, while many more taken from our end. That being said, we are trying to overwhelm them here. They're down to 4, so we've done quite a bit of damage. Again, Strasbourg is a national morale objective, so that's a thing to consider. I don't think we'll be able to destroy them or even get a unit in place to take the city from them this turn, so we may have to shift our attacks north or something to that effect. Some of my troops here are a little bit tired from previous fights, so yeah, I'm not sure. It'll do a little bit of damage there against Strasbourg, but it's still got 3 units there. Probably lose all of its experience if we attack it next turn. If he reinforces before our attacks next turn. Meanwhile, we've got some cavalry here in sort of central Germany. We can try and move toward Osnabrück and maybe link up with the troops up at Wilhelmshaven. Several corps up here will attack this German unit near Osnabrück. And we have now technically linked up with the troops at Wilhelmshaven. So we've linked up with those troops at that port. Push our cavalry perhaps through Erfurt toward Leipzig. We take Kassel in the process. And actually in the process of doing this, and now we're going to move this Italian detachment here toward Schweinfurt. So we've created a fairly thick pocket, not heavily defended, but a fairly thick pocket depth-wise from Frankfurt in the north to Strasbourg in the south, with all the cream of what's left of the German military. That is, 8 units there. A couple of them upgraded, and most of them experienced pre-war units. So that's a pretty good result, I would say, is that we've got them all surrounded. Now, they do draw supply from multiple of those Rhine cities. So got to keep the pressure up, got to keep these, frankly, unfavorable attacks going to try and, win this campaign. But the casualties are mounting, and we'll see if we can manage to keep this rolling. We did drive these troops out of Mainz. Unfortunately, Mainz is not a national morale objective, but it's still a town. It's still economically valuable. It's still another source of supply for these surrounded troops. So maybe we can take that from them and maybe finish off that corps which we drove back and reduce their pocket from 8 units to 7. That's 7 infantry corps. There's also 1 headquarters unit there too. We can move this unit here into Mainz with its 5 hit points, I suppose. It would open up a national... No, that's actually not... That doesn't have a national morale. Never mind. Advance toward Frankfurt, perhaps. I probably need to pause the assault in a turn or two to replace our losses. It's probably smart to do. All right, let's move this 20th Corps, which is at 50% strength forward to Mainz. It managed to successfully destroy the enemy unit there. So another German corps destroyed. I think that's number 2 on the day. We did take heavy casualties. I don't want that corps attacking anyone. It's down to 3 hit points, but yeah. I think that pretty much does it for the turn. I don't think there's a whole lot more to do in Germany. And we've kind of already attacked everybody who I think can. We can push some of this cavalry forward here to try and more rapidly break through these lines and knock some of these German units out. But I think this is probably just about it. We can move one of these British corps in here to try and strengthen the pocket near Frankfurt. Maybe give us a better chance of attacking next turn. Move our artillery to the front. I'm doing a lot of force marching, which I don't generally love to do, but sometimes you gotta do it to keep the momentum going, prevent them from entrenching and drawing a bunch of entrenchment benefits there. Reinforcing some air units here who didn't really do anything this turn, and I think that probably just about does it. I don't know that there's a whole lot else for me to do here. We got a new French corps to deploy. We got to do that. New Italian Marine unit here will deploy it and be able to, we've got 2 units now on ports in the Adriatic. We could send them to the Sinai if we wanted to try and bolster the troops there. Move as many troops as we can to the border with Bulgaria and kind of go from there. We are also still spending a ton of money on trying to bring Romania into the war, so it's possible that they would join soon-ish as well. But it's December of 1915. We'll see if the Germans make it to 1916, I guess. Their national morale is kind of low. They lost two national morale objectives this turn. The only Central Power country with a very healthy national morale are the Ottomans, and that's mainly because they have not fought much. They lost several naval ships early in the war. I haven't touched anything since. Meanwhile, the Indomitable, only 1 hit point left. Let's move it into a port somewhere where she can be safe from enemy assaults. We could move the Italian and French fleets in the Adriatic to isolate this battle cruiser here at Sed El Bar. I moved that cruiser to make sure the battle cruiser was still there. Nearly sank my cruiser. And it is still there. 9 hit points with 1 experience star. So I think that was a very smart move by him to move his battle cruiser to Sed El Bar because it prevented me from ever really being able to land near Gallipoli. And I also think, I had wanted to do more with transporting units around, but I didn't want to take a 6 or 7 hit point penalty because we moved a hex away from where their battleship is, and we kind of got a reaction attack against us. So, it's easy to sit back and critique an opponent for mistakes they made or things they could have done differently because we knew full well what we were doing and he didn't. But I would say his handling of the Ottoman Navy, especially that battleship there, very effective, very, very smart. So I'm curious to see what a second gameplay will look like, what a second scenario will look like, even with a different conflict. But yeah. Meanwhile, I think we're about to end the turn here. It would not shock me if the Germans don't surrender. I don't know what the victory conditions are for the Ottomans if they keep fighting. We may have a few turns left. Romania is at 87% pro-Entente. Bulgaria is sitting at 89. They've been there for like 4 turns now. And then you can see Poland and some other countries are all pro-Russia too. So there's more room for some diplomacy to happen now, I guess. But yeah. So I don't think there's anything else for me to do here. We've been going for about 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and end the turn. And then we can go ahead and see what the next turn has in store for us here. So, yep, there we go. German morale drops due to the fall of Thorn. France celebrates taking of Mulhouse. German morale is affected by the fall of the they were affected by the fall of Austria-Hungary. I assume that means they surrender now. That's 2 national morale objectives plus sort of an event. Start shipping supplies to northern Russia, and it doesn't matter. Look, Germany's national morale dropped to 0. Sweden, you can stop complaining. Romania's influences impacted. Poland's joining the war on our side, I guess. Romania too, so now we can go after Bulgaria. We get another free Kitchener Army Corps here in England. I don't need it. There's a mutiny at Cuxhaven. They suppress it. So we got multiple allies joining the war next turn. It looks like Germany's about to collapse. And it's not even 1916 yet. It's December 18th, 1915. And the war is over. So we got the war. The boys are going to be home by Christmas, a week early from their second Christmas at war. They didn't even spend 2 Christmases at war. I guess January 1st technically is the end date, so 2 Christmases. But that is an 18-month war, boys. We crushed them. That was a good feeling there. So hope you guys enjoyed this series. That's going to do it for today. Leave me your thoughts below. Thoughts on a Balkan War scenario if you'd like to see what we've learned. And that's going to do it for today, though, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying thank you very much for watching. And until next time, I'm out. Bye-bye. Oh, I guess if you want to see the map. Germany didn't have much left. They had a few units on a few cities. They were getting overrun. As those Russian units all made it to the west, they would have been crushed. The Austrian map makes no sense to me. Romania and Poland coming in would have given us a direct line to Bulgaria. I probably would have declared on Bulgaria and invaded the Ottomans next turn. But yeah. That's, looks like they only had 3 cores in European Ottoman Empire. They had several more here on the Russian front. Never really made an effort to push into Russia from there, interestingly enough. Few garrisons internally in Arabia, and then a weaker force than I thought on the Jerusalem front. But yeah, that's going to do it, guys. Thanks again for tuning in. Until next time, this is the Historical Gamer saying once again, thank you very much for watching. And until next time, I'm out. Bye-bye.